President Akuffo assures of economic rebound in his State of the Nation address.
Minority challenges passage of e-levy at the Supreme Court.
Ghana to begin the first phase of commercial vaccine production by January 2024.
President Akuffo promises a package for the senior national team for qualifying for 2022 World Cup in Qatar.
And South Africa to dispose of more than 90,000 Pfizer jabs by the end of March on expiration.
Hello, good evening, live on GBC News and GTV. It's time for News Hour. I'm Siyoko Kwakutre.
My name is Shirley Annan. Now, first story, the Tamale Interchange, inaugurated on Tuesday, is the latest within Ghana's infrastructure space, being the fourth interchange in Ghana and the first in the northern sector by the NPP administration. President Akuffo says his government is committed to ensuring equity in development across the nation.
Delivering the State of the Nation Address 2022, the President touted the Youth Start program for young entrepreneurs as one of the government's interventions to reduce youth unemployment. He also cautioned against threats of coup d'etats which can mar the country's democratic reputation.
Like all major construction projects, it's evident that the initial schedule we gave for the completion of Agenda 111 was overly ambitious. We have every intention of seeing this project through to its successful end, which will enable me to commission all 111 hospitals before I leave office on 7th January 2025. The computerized school placement system is currently ongoing, and the latest batch of JHS students will soon embark on their free SHS and free TVET education. The TVET institutions are being upgraded and equipped to enable them to train the increased numbers of children that we want to be attracted to that sector to meet the modern needs of our economy. Within the next few months, the construction of 5 technical colleges will begin in various parts of the country. 3 technical institutes will be upgraded to tertiary status. The initial phase for the construction of 90 TVET campuses will commence next month in Bosumtwe, Achimewisa, Boakon, Kenyase, Patuda, Dambai, Larabanga, Guabuliga, and Tolibri.
Mr. Speaker, we have proof beyond the education, agriculture, and manufacturing sectors to show that we have been using state revenue to expand infrastructure across other sectors and improve lives.
The President says processes have begun to establish the National Vaccine Institute in the country. It is a proposed National Vaccine Institute to implement the strategy to enable Ghana to begin the first phase of commercial vaccine production by January 2024. He said the bill will soon be brought to Parliament in this regard.
We had to learn some very hard lessons. And our belief in the need for self-sufficiency was reinforced when vaccine nationalism was played out blatantly by the rich and powerful countries. Mr. Speaker, the Presidential Vaccine Manufacturing Committee, which I set up to respond to this obvious deficiency, has put in place a comprehensive strategy for domestic vaccine production, and establishment of a National Vaccine Institute to implement the strategy, which will enable us to begin the first phase of commercial production in January 2024. A bill will shortly be brought to you in this House for your support and approval for the establishment of the National Vaccine Institute. This pandemic exposed other shortcomings of our country, which have undoubtedly contributed to the anxieties that have befallen the nation. Agenda 111 was born out of this necessity to address some of these shortcomings.
Residents of Wa in the Upper West Region say they are disappointed in the President's State of the Nation address because it failed to address the hike in fuel prices and high taxes. Speaking to GBC News' regional correspondent Swala Addo after the address, some of the people contended that these factors make it impossible for them to break even in their businesses.
Expectations were high in Wahia, the regional capital, before the President presented his State of the Nation's address. But after the address, some people have expressed disappointment.
So it's no good for me because our things we are selling is go high for us. So I think that government will do something about the taxes. It's too much for us.
When we go and buy the fish, because of the tax, we can't buy. If we buy if we bring it here, we can't sell it because it's high.
Cost of living is very high, even though we are in the north. Now a ball of kenke here goes for 3 cedis, which shouldn't be so.
For the people here, the President's State of the Nation will impact on their lives if it leads to the reduction of fuel prices and taxes.
Fuel is the main transport of everything, the food whatsoever. So if the price of the fuel comes down, everything will also go down. Even if it's 20%.
We want the government to help us so that if he can reduce some of them.
GBC News, Swala Abdul Wahab. Wa.
In Tamale, residents expressed satisfaction with the inauguration of the interchange on Tuesday, though they expected the President to address ways to improve agriculture in the region.
They mentioned that the President could have delved more into how the difficulty facing the economy now and how the nation is working towards coming out of it. We spoke with some farmers who said that they would also love to see the President tell them how the coming farming season could help. They are concerned that will be happening in Europe. Russia and Ukraine in particular, there are fears that fertilizer and other inputs for agriculture may be affected. And they wanted to hear more from the President as to how they are making efforts to make local arrangements to make this easy for them. But they were impressed about the interchange that was commissioned yesterday, and they said this is something that will help enhance business activities in the northern regional capital and also to beautify the place.
There were mixed reactions from residents of the Bunu East region with regards to the President's address. Many say they were expecting interventions in the agriculture sector, but that was missing.
It was just a mixed feeling here or mixed reaction from the residents here after the President's State of the Nation's address. They said they were not, most of them told me they were not expecting that much because recently, the Minister for Finance, Ken Foriata, outlined some of the measures government is trying to take to address some of the challenges that is confronting the people in the country. So, what the government, the President said this morning, they were not surprised about some of the things. What they were expecting him was to give much more details about the agric area, because for the Bono East region, they have a lot of valleys and they have a lot of areas that they want to develop or make the region half of agric.
While some residents at the Volta regional capital praised the government for restoring the country's economic fortunes, others insisted that the government failed to provide concrete measures to revive the economy.
The mixed reaction. Other group of people, were in support for the government for the manner in which he has, handled the economy, especially taking from the fact that we are not in normal time. For them, one major thing that really they spoke about was the passage of the e-levy and the fact that in as much as times are hard, they were wishing that Ghanaians will understand the president on the fact that the country needs money to recover from the effects of the pandemic. Then there was this other group, they were not enthused. They were hoping to hear pragmatic steps that is being taken by the government of the day to alleviate the hardships in the country. But rather, it seems as if, according to them, government is rather worsening the already bad situation, the bad economic situation in the country with the imposition and the passage of the e-levy.
Our news team in the Ashanti region reports that while some asked for further public education on the e-levy, others called for measures by the government to mitigate the worsening socio-economic circumstances in the country.
Simple fact, we be boa. Well, you know me because Brenna, your man in a baby see no mum, bias say, but more man, upon the Sasa, na Dibia, Dijina Nijina. Na near how many say? A bassa, na to a Tiano, you may move. Yet so I'm an aquashare and ask the Tiano. Any bees ever come home. I said to Sansoa. You nipa bebrebe wo memu a omuntuato
awon hwe no wo de data enya Ukraine ni Russia won tokwan enu ntina wo hwe no ba esisi akra de ntimi to hwe ne mo boa edi me bi to ediane agwa me ntimi to nti yesre na omemu yemre
oman bia ho ha so hu the president ajusu bia ma oman na ade ba ko kasafa ho a pese ni chire ma agenda ka agenda 111 hospital na oba be hospital no minimum kwankra o to asi o say obesi before and stand of office e bia minimum ne kese sai city ti bia nko timi chire mu say e bia ne kese no ne capacity ni ti na obesi abi and stand of office no kan ne no ya.
The President, Nana Akuffo, says the current economic challenges have created a sense of anxiety among Ghanaians, and understandably so. He says people are anxious about the economy, the cost of living, income levels, jobs for youth, and issues on the general development. Nana Akuffo says all is not lost and called for support to bring hope to the people. ECOWAS Court of Justice has fixed July 13, 2022 to deliver judgments in the case in which 3 anti-graft agencies are challenging the government of Ghana over the Ajapa deal. The panel of 3, presided over by Justice Edward Amwakwa-Santi, set the date after the applicants and the Attorney General's Department made their submissions before the court on Wednesday, March 30, 2022.
Transparency International, Ghana Integrity Initiative and Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition sued government over the Japa deal. The anti-graft institution suit is based on government interference with the people of Ghana's right to permanent sovereignty over national resources guaranteed by Article 21 of the African Charter on Human People's Rights and Articles 2.1 and 2.3.1. 16.1 and 17.3 of the revised African Convention on the Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. On Wednesday afternoon, lawyer for the applicants, Mr. Olumide Babalola, argued that there must be proper consultative processes for the deal to ensure transparency, and for that matter, as part of its reliefs, wants the court to suspend the Ejapa deal until due process is done. The Attorney General's Department, represented by Chief State Attorney Madam Dorothy Efriye Ansa, arguing, prayed the court to dismiss the application as unmeritorious and frivolous and a waste of the court's time. She contended that government seeks to serve the Ghanaian interest in the Ejapa deal. The AG has also raised preliminary objections in relation to the capacity of the first applicant, Transparency International, to sue government since it is not registered under the laws of Ghana.
You're still watching News Live on GBC News, your news and governance channel. The minority leader in Parliament, Mr. Haruna Idrisu, and 2 other minority MPs have filed an application at the Supreme Court to challenge the passage of the electronic transaction levy, e-levy, by Parliament into law. Mr. Idrisu, Mahama Ayariga, and Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa wants the court to declare the passage of the e-levy as unconstitutional and therefore null and void.
It is their case that Parliament did not have the right quorum to pass the e-levy as provided under Article 1041 of the 1992 Constitution, which was interpreted by the Supreme Court in the case of Justice Abdullahi versus Attorney General on March 9, 2022. According to the applicants, that are the minority leader in Parliament, Mr. Haruna Idrisu, and colleagues, minority MPs Mahama Ayariga and Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, at the time of the second reading for the passage of the e-levy, there were only 136 MPs present in Parliament instead of the required 138. They want the court to therefore declare the whole proceedings, including the second reading, third reading and voting to pass the e-levy, as unconstitutional, now void and of no effect. The plaintiffs also want an order from the court to set aside the passage of the e-levy by Parliament. They also want the Supreme Court to declare that Parliament lacked the required quorum to vote on each clause of the Electronic Transfer Bill 2021 before the House when the Speaker puts the question for the bill's consideration.
A Deputy Minister of Education, Reverend Intim Fojo, says the free SHS has become a game-changer policy that has opened a new chapter for young people whose education would not have gone beyond secondary education due to financial constraints. At a public lecture in honor of President Akuffo Addo, the Deputy Minister said, although some successes have been chalked in improving Ghana's human capital base via the free SHS, there are challenges that need to be given a second look, including quality and infrastructure.
On 11th February 2017, President Nana Akuffo Addo announced the policy to make senior high school education tuition-free, thus paving the way for Ghanaians whose parents could not afford to pay for their fees to go to school. It's been 5 years since the government rolled out the policy, but there are still hurdles to be cleared. These include lack of infrastructure, teacher shortage, inadequate teaching materials, and delays in the supply of funds. At a public lecture in honor of President Akuffo Addo, director at the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, GIMPA, Professor Samuel Bonsu, said he fully endorses the free senior high school policy, describing it as a prudent decision so far taken by the government. On how to achieve workable solutions to ensure its success, the director called for the expansion of infrastructure, suggested a collaboration with the private sector, notably private school owners, who have spaces to lease them out to government for the infrastructure needs.
Could it have been that students who would otherwise attend private secondary schools were now enrolling in the public ones because they no longer had to pay fees? It would suggest that the private school owners would have plenty of space available. Instead of the government perhaps rushing to build new schools under the stress that it endured over that period, there could have been an alternative. And that alternative would have been going into agreement with the private school owners who had space, leasing these spaces as an immediate measure to absorb the problem or address the problem, ease the accommodation burden that arose.
A Deputy Minister for Education, Reverend Intim Fojo, entreated Ghanaians to put politics aside and commend government for making the free senior high school a reality. He encouraged the citizenry to come on board to contribute ideas to make it work.
Has free as just been successful? Yes, it has. But the next question is, has it come without challenges? No, they came with challenges. How did we overcome them? Together. How did we do it? We listened. And so for it to continue succeeding, we must keep listening. And so the government has that position, and the Ministry of Education, we have the position of listening to every idea. We will not discount any idea that comes from any stakeholder, because it is in listening to these that we can continually make this better.
The lecture was on the theme, Consolidating the Gains of the Free Senior High School Policy, Protecting the Legacy for Future Generation.
The 2022 Ghana Institution of Engineering Annual Conference has opened in Accra with a call on government to involve engineers in the nation's development agenda. The two-day conference brings together engineers from across the country and Africa to learn, share ideas and experiences, network and spark innovation.
The Ghana Institution of Engineering, GHIE, is a professional body responsible for certifying engineering practitioners, including professional engineers, professional engineering technologists, engineering technicians, and engineering craftsmen. Its objective is to ensure that engineering practice in the country conforms to globally established technical, environmental, and safety standards. The crucial role of engineering and infrastructure in national development cannot be overemphasized. To this end, in many developing economies, the challenges are related, considering the inadequacy or inefficient development goals, especially sub-Saharan African countries. The Executive Director of GHIE, Mr. Kwetia Nyante, said such conferences help engineers to expand their professional and personal development and gather wealth of knowledge within a relatively short time.
No profession is as closely linked to national development as the engineering profession. It is also an opportunity for engineering organizations and entities to share world-class projects from diverse engineering and related backgrounds.
For too long, engineers and engineering practitioners have distanced themselves from national development discourse. At the institution's 2022 annual conference and 52nd annual general meeting, the president of GHIE, Reverend Professor Charles Enum Adams, said the GHIE wants to focus on the National Infrastructure Plan developed by NDPC.
What the NDPC will do is to look at the entire country and look at what are the important things that will help us develop. So if we set it aside and then we do our own thing, we will win election by that, but the country will not develop. When you have a plan, people must know what is in the plan. Many professional architects, engineers, planners don't even know that there's a plan, let alone what is in it.
This year's session will cover road and transport, water and sanitation, energy and ICT by discussing a multiple criteria selection method for rural road maintenance. This year's conference is on the theme, Engineering, Key to Achieving National Development.
This is News Hour live on GBC News, your news and governance channel. There's more news coming up. Please stay.
Let's do business, brought to you by Quick Credit and MTN, with me, Esther Addo Ohumeu. Ghana's dream of becoming a hub of the automotive industry in the ECOWAS market is gradually gaining ground, with the latest being Nissan. Nissan will from Thursday, 31st March 2022, start putting its vehicle brands such as Nissan Navara onto the Ghanaian market. President Akuffo Addo will inaugurate the assembling plant at Tema.
Ghana is charting a new path into the automotive industry with an aggressive investment drive to woo some of the giants in the global space. The journey, which began in 2018, endeared the hearts of industry players like VW, Toyota, Suzuki, Sinotruk, Nissan, Kia and Hyundai. By 2020, VW has responded positively to the invitation extended by the Akuffo Addo-led government and introduced 5 models of its vehicles onto the Ghanaian market: the Apollo, Passat, Tiguan, Amarok and Terramont. Toyota Suzuki in 2021 also opened its assembling plant at the Free Zones Enclave at Tema. Sinotruk followed suit with its Zonda heavy-duty trucks. The latest to join the league of automotive giants in Ghana is Nissan. President Akuffo Addo, at the State of the Nation address in Parliament, described the development as a vote of confidence in Ghana's economy and will not only create jobs for the youth but also help in sharpening their skills.
A new state-of-the-art assembly plant with capacity to assemble 5,000 new vehicles per annum has been established by Nissan in Tema, which is currently producing Nissan and Peugeot brands of vehicles for the Ghanaian and West African markets. I will have the pleasure to commission this new plant in Tema tomorrow. 3 other vehicle manufacturers, namely Kia, Hyundai and Renault, are also expected to commence commercial production this year.
Ghanaian wholly owned vehicle manufacturing company Kantaka is also stepping up its effort to be counted among the global automotive giants.
Our national iconic automobile brand, the Kantaka brand, produced by Kantaka Automobile Company Limited, also stepped up production of its made in Ghana vehicles, which include Nkunumdie SUV, Omama pickup, Onate 4x4 pickup, Otumfo SUV, and K71 small SUV models. Now that the Minister for Finance has announced an embargo on the importation of 4x4 vehicles for official use, I hope the local assembly plants will take full advantage of the opportunity, especially since government is continuing with its policy of giving first priority to locally assembled vehicles in respect of all publicly financed procurement of vehicles.
I say, though government has done well by patronizing these locally assembled vehicles, there should be an aggressive campaign to encourage Ghanaians to do the same.
Announcement of the entry of Kia, Hyundai and Renault Motors into the country's automobile industry by the end of 2022 has been lauded by the Vice President of GUTA, Mr. Clement Boateng. He is urging government to ensure that local players can serve as agents of the automobile companies operating in the country.
Setting up automobile companies here to start assembling vehicles here is good for the spare parts industry, because it gives us opportunity to also try as much as possible, to have partners with some companies who do component manufacturing. As I'm talking to you now, we've been approached by some association, that is African Automobile Association, which has its headquarters in South Africa, to try as much as possible, to partner us to set up some manufacturing plants, so that at least we could start, manufacturing something, some basic parts like bushings, like radiators, like headlamps, like windscreen, as a support, for the manufacturing companies here. But our problem has to do with funding. So if government is able, to support us to be able to establish those factories, I think it will go a long way in our quest for vehicle assembling plant here.
We will take the interbank and commodity figures for the day. And that was business brought to you by Quick Credit and MTN. Thanks for watching.
This is the energy segment with Mabel Anang. 279 communities have been connected to the national grid under the National Electrification Scheme. This has increased the national electricity access rate from 85.17% in 2020 to 87.03% as of January 2022. 487 more communities are also on course towards connection. President Akuffo Addo mentioned these during the State of the Nation address in Parliament.
Introduction of more bulk supply points in areas such as Kaswa and Pokuase. Power transmission has improved tremendously in the southwestern and northwestern parts of Greater Accra. Power lines are getting upgraded to reduce commercial and technical losses and increase transmission capacity. Under the National Electrification Scheme, a total of 279 communities have been connected to the national grid. We are on course to achieve our ambition of universal access to electricity by the end of my term as the President of this country.
Now, gas market challenges and investment in the upstream sector were key issues during a stakeholder meeting in Accra on the future of Ghana gas. These issues stakeholders believe are major threats to the future prospects of gas and may hold back government's energy transitioning agenda. Natural gas is an important fuel source for power generation in Ghana. Currently, gas supply outlook for the country remains stable with demand below supply from the existing sources, Jubilee and 10, Sankofa Field, and gas from Nigeria. Stakeholders' engagement on energy transitioning has warranted the need for the gas sector to play a pivotal role in the transition to net zero. At a stakeholders meeting on the future of Ghana gas, a policy lead for petroleum and conventional energy with ASEB, Mr. Kojo Yauche, said government's transitioning plan must deal with challenges such as delay in payment for gas consumed. He said policy incoherence is leading to the low demand for gas, a challenge that must be addressed.
Our assessment of the market shows that currently and in the short term, demand for gas is actually lower than the supply from our domestic sources, and even if you inject gas from Nigeria, which has become stable in the past 2 years, that makes us stand at a risk of oversupply of gas. So then it beats the mind when you see that the country intends to import LNG into the market. Then you ask yourself that who's going to consume that gas, you know. So that's one of the ways that policy incoherence is manifesting itself.
Commercial Operational Manager at Ghana Gas, Dr. Reverse Nopon, said free gas from the Jubilee partners is ending in 2023 and Ghana will have to pay for the supply of gas from the oil fields.
Now they're going to price it as a commodity, right? So that, as I said, in tariff modeling, we are going to treat that as part of the constitute of the weighted average cost of commodity. So in essence, we're going to have a bit of increase in the weighted, in the cost of delivered gas.
The dialogue seeks to promote a shared understanding of the sector to re-examine the gas sector bottlenecks that hinder the realization of value from Ghana's gas resources for national development, while exploring the key questions surrounding the role of gas in Ghana's plans for energy transition and its net zero ambitions. Mabel Anang, GBC News, Accra. This brings us to the end of the energy segment with Mabel Anang.
Welcome to the health segment of the news, brought to you by Lufat from Tobinco. From the National AIDS Control Program statistics, about 346,000 people are living with HIV in Ghana. Out of this number, 80% are females. This means currently there are about 276,800 females living with HIV. In an exclusive interview with GBC News' Beatrice Sanaju, the program's manager at the National AIDS Control Program, Dr. Stephen Addo, said these figures are alarming and parents, caregivers and guardians must have a plan in place to protect their adolescents, girls from HIV and AIDS and related diseases.
HIV and AIDS has claimed many lives in the country. Even though the fear associated with HIV and AIDS has changed with time due to the many preventive interventions, health experts say the disease is still a public health threat and intensive advocacy is needed to reduce the rising figures at all levels. The National AIDS Control Program says majority of the populace are still unaware of their HIV status. From statistics, only 21,600 people are aware of their status. Additional figures also show that 18,982 HIV infections occur in young adults and adolescents from ages 15 to 24. Of the 19,000 new HIV infections recorded in Ghana in 2021, 5,200 occurred in females, a situation both the NACP and the Ghana AIDS Commission say is worrying and must be tackled from the root.
At the last count, when we took children and adolescents, about 5,200 new infections occurred amongst the children. Now, what was very intriguing and very surprising was that majority of them were females. I think it follows the general picture where of the population of people living with HIV, the females are more. Okay, females are more. About 70%, 65. I mean, females are more. So, new infections also, we notice that the females are more, but about 5,200. Okay, and you will find a similar trend with respect to those who die.
Health experts say transactional sex, poverty, and the exposure of the female anatomy to contracting various diseases are some of the leading factors of the rising HIV cases among females in the country. In reducing the rising figures to its barest minimum, the National AIDS Control Program and the Ghana AIDS Commission have introduced some measures.
Recently, there's even what we call the Education Plus initiative, which is about advocacy about young ladies staying in school, because it has been realized that when you stay in school, there is a kind of structural benefit in which the number of HIV infections in that group goes up. So we are pushing that agenda with the UN system.
Then we have one intervention with the school health. We call that with the SHEP, School Health Education Program, where continuously we update the curriculum of schools with HIV information, so that whilst they are school, they learn HIV as a normal subject, and by the time they become adults, they have some ammunition to prevent them.
HIV and AIDS advocates are sending an urgent health alert to the
health segment of the news was brought to you by Lufat from Tobinco.